Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, that's right. You read the title, and you know exactly what documentary it is that I'm reviewing. Yep. Now, let me go ahead and make this very clear, first off, that yeah, this documentary was unbeknownst to me, and I'm sure maybe the same goes for some of you. I don't know, maybe if there's any of you that happen to have heard / known about this documentary and that it was in the works and it was going to be on its way soon on Disney Plus, just, yeah. And who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Like, I'm not sure if, no, because I don't think any of us asked for this documentary. But until now, it's just one of those things like, hey, okay, hey, I'm already down. Like, yeah, this looks interesting. Hey, I'm all on board for this, even though it never occurred to me that, you know, we should have this. But, yeah. So, yes, that's right. This documentary, all about the history and the making of what is considered one of Disney's, you know, cult classics in the 1990s. This is definitely, you know, just, like, I don't know what else to say, because, yeah, this one Disney animated film and how much of an impact it left off, and over the years, and even, you know, to this day, how much love and appreciation and a cult following this one Disney animated film from the 90s had gotten / received, and as of now, the fact that we have a documentary on this one Disney animated film from the 90s, just, yeah, it's amazing. So yes, the documentary, all about a Goofy movie from 2024, not just a goof. Oh, yeah. So, yes, why not? Yes, so not just a goof. Yeah, I tell you, because, again, who'd have thought that we would ever get a documentary all about a Goofy movie, the making of it, and what went down, and knowing its history some more. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, because we knew some fun facts and behind the scenes and the making of what went in to a Goofy movie, but probably, yeah, there was a lot more that we didn't know about until now, and it's thanks to this documentary. And with the documentary's directors, Eric Kemmelton and Christopher Ninus. Because, like, the name, might be butchering it some, but hey, you know me sometimes, and I don't know, maybe some of you would probably have trouble pronouncing it, but anyways, don't we all? But yeah, you know, the fact that, yes, Eric, he's related to the Goofy movie's director, Kevin Lemon, and well, the fact that Eric is the nephew of Kevin, and well, yeah, just what these two guys brought to this documentary, and I will talk about some background and fun facts in just a moment, but just, yeah, for me, because, yeah, the first things I have to say about it, because, well, I knew for a fact, and even when I first heard about this, I did my reaction to the trailer, etc. Well, I knew for a fact that I was going to enjoy this, because I'm always a sucker for documentaries, especially if it's anything Disney. Oh, yeah, I mean, because how can you not get into documentaries on some Disney subjects and so on, you know what I mean? And yeah, when I finally, of course, did watch it, and, you know, even I did do I did do a rewatch of this, and now that I'm reviewing it, yeah, not just a goof, is amazing. It really is. It's a fine, well-put-together documentary from Eric and Christopher, and the fact that, well, if it's not obvious, they each love a Goofy movie, and, you know, it was their idea to do this, and the fact that, you know, nobody was interested in it, and it never occurred to anybody else, especially Disney, to do a special, like, the making of / behind the scenes of a Goofy movie, you know, documentary and so on. But yeah, it's thanks to them that we have a documentary, an official documentary on a Goofy movie. Yeah, just everything about it from beginning to end. Some things that I didn't know that much of until now. It's just amazing. It really is. Especially because the fact that there's a lot of home recordings that Kevin took while working on a Goofy movie, some never-before-seen behind-the-scenes footage, and even, recordings of the voice cast members of a Goofy movie in the booth recording and such. Just, yeah, it's really amazing. It really is. And with the emotion to this documentary and the struggles that Kevin and the rest of the crew went through trying to make a Goofy movie really good and such, and when Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was still involved with Disney, he greenlit a Goofy movie, he was definitely a full-time supporter of, the crew working on a Goofy movie. And the fact when, at a certain point, he resigned Disney, but, and even, despite a Goofy movie not being well received, when it came out on video and such, and years later, and even when it made it to its 10th anniversary, actually, from 10th, then to 20th, just amazing, But just overall, not just a goof, the official documentary, the making of a Goofy movie, excellent. Definitely recommend this. And of course, for any of you who love a Goofy movie, I know some of you probably out there, you love a Goofy movie, so if anybody has not seen this documentary yet, then go watch it. Anybody that has Disney Plus, of course. That's your best way to watch it. Alright, so, as always, for me, now that I've finished with my first thoughts and such, now read the description / the story, as I do all the time. Exploring the untold story of a Goofy movie, following a young creative team tackling their first Disney feature. It's intellectual disappointment, and its surprising resurrence, if I'm saying that right, decades later. Facts. Okay. Alright, so, getting into the documentary itself. But actually, no, because I almost forgot. Background and fun facts that I want to share. Because, as I said, because the two guys who made this possible, Christopher and Eric, well, they got to know each other. And especially because, when Christopher got to know Eric, and the fact that Eric was, the nephew of Kevin Lima, again, the director of a Goofy movie, and to think what Kevin Lima would direct next. To think that, he started with a Goofy movie, and look what he would direct next, most notably, say, Tarzan. Of course, it's brought up on what else he directed after a Goofy movie, especially Tarzan, but So, they crossed paths, and I believe, Christopher, he was... maybe both of them or one of them. I can't remember as of now. But one of them being Kevin's intern. And, well, both of them, sharing a lot in common, especially the fact that, they loved documentaries. They loved some of the Disney documentaries from Waking Sleeping Beauty, and especially the documentary miniseries and 6 episodes of the making of Frozen 2. And when it occurred to them that, nobody has done a documentary on a Goofy movie, and if there's any interest for it. And that's when they took it upon themselves, and it took about, 4 years, especially during the pandemic when they were laying this all out, and they were in the works of having this documentary be possible, and especially since they're in connection with Kevin Lima, however his last name's pronounced, but you know who it is. They got him involved, and also, at a certain point, Don Hahn, he would get attached with this documentary as well, because Kevin, knowing Don, contacting him and informing him about this, and getting some help from Don and, through Disney to do this documentary and to publish it and just, distribute it and so on. And also not to mention that Don Hahn's daughter, being a huge fan of a Goofy movie and taking Goofy movie than, say, The Lion King. Because if anybody would happen to know this even before seeing the documentary, because, even though it came out a year before, The Lion King, it did overshadow, say, a Goofy movie and Pocahontas and what they established in the documentary. So as time proceeded, and then up to the point where, they were making progress, bringing this documentary to life. You know, interviewing, say, Kevin, bringing in, say, Bill Farmer, and Jason Marsden. Wrong Mars, gotta get my Marsden right. Yeah, so again, Bill Farmer and Jason Marsden, they were brought in as well. And yeah, pretty much the only ones that, from Kevin, Bill, and Jason, but also some of the, animated crew members of a Goofy movie, like, yeah, David Z, and a few others, like, yeah, and also, Gary Kreisel, if I'm saying his last name right, and Brian Pimental, if I'm getting his last name right as well, you know, and also Gregory Perler, Steve Moore, Dan Rounds, yeah, like, those that I just named, like, they're the only ones that actually appear in the documentary. Everybody else who's listed for this documentary, and when looking IMDb, yeah, most of them being credited because of the archive footage. So yeah, like, you know, most notably Jeffrey Katzenberg. But yeah, and also, I mean, of course, like I said, it was unbeknownst to me that this documentary was in the works and when it was coming. But yeah, this documentary, it first debuted on one of the Disney cruise ships, but also at the Walt Disney Family Museum. And eventually, yeah, it finally made its way to Disney Plus just in time for a Goofy Movie's anniversary. Yeah, so, yeah, they had it all planned, and, well, they knew that, because everybody else had to see this, and, well, around the time when it was finished and made and it was shown a year early, well, saving it for next year, around the time for a Goofy Movie's anniversary. So, yeah, nice. Now everybody can see it in all of its glory, and the fans of a Goofy movie just, yeah. All right. But yeah, that's all the fun facts and background I have, and anything else I've missed, but yeah. All right, but getting into the documentary itself, because, yeah, that's amazing, because, yeah, and first off, one of the directors, Christopher, he not only is the writer/director, one of the writers/directors of this documentary, but he's also the narrator, and seeing a bit of behind the scenes of him doing the narration, and the story he shares, he teases it at the beginning of this documentary, but it comes in very later on. His connection, his deep connection with a Goofy movie itself. Also, it's great how this documentary opens with, like, say, a VHS tape of a Goofy movie and it being rewind and such, and even, like, say, before that finishes, like, you know, the last thing we get is the hot tub sequence. Oh, yeah, deep cuts, just, yeah. Getting to see Kevin Lima's, again, if I am pronouncing his last name right, getting to see his house and his memorabilia, you know, from his movies, most notably a Goofy movie, and showing off maquettes that were made in '93, which are Max and Roxanne, and, yeah, and seeing a lot of other stuff he has in his house, like having a poster of Enchanted. He's got memorabilia, because down in the basement, not just with a Goofy movie, but, say, Tarzan and Enchanted, because, yeah, he also directed Enchanted, keep that in mind. And some of the other Disney films he directed, yeah, from Tarzan, Enchanted, but in between, say, Tarzan and Enchanted, he also directed 102 Dalmatians, and what was the other one? I think that was that. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, because, yeah, from a Goofy movie, Tarzan, 102 Dalmatians, and Enchanted. So yeah, yeah, and again, as I was saying, like, some of the other stuff he's got in his house, like, he's got a replica of Animal from the Muppets, and he's got a really cool, like, statue of the Iron Giant. Yeah, I'd get that. I saw a bit of Star Wars, yes, and, like, a T-Rex head bust, you know, with Kermit in his jaws. It was funny. Yeah, why not, you know, for humor. And yeah, when Kevin sits down and, you know, he's got the maquettes set down beside him on a night's lamp stand, yeah, and, you know, of course, him talking about, what went down and his experience doing a Goofy movie, and everybody else that we get to see on screen, some of the animated workers and such, yeah. And, of course, Bill Farmer and Jason Marsden. And, yeah, the home recordings, let's talk about those, because it's amazing. Because the fact that Kevin, he recorded home video recordings of, when he was directing a Goofy movie and what was happening in the behind the scenes, and not to mention the fact that he made personal recordings to send to the studio where he's acting out some certain parts of the movie and how they need to be done specifically. Yeah, that's great. Even sharing the aftermath and results of how a Goofy movie was received and on the magazines and so on. And also, yeah, because, when production began on a Goofy movie, because, around the early 1990s, and, this is especially because, when Goof Troop happened, and Disney was in considerations and planning on developing a movie centering on Goofy, and Kevin, who started working at Disney in the early 80s, and especially, around the time of the Black Cauldron, even when Jeffrey Katzenberg came in. And, if you know about the era and time of Disney in the early 1980s, wasn't a good time. But until, say, from The Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, Roger Rabbit, and then The Little Mermaid, things were looking better for Disney. For Kevin, what got him inspired to want to work at Disney, and where he would be at, and when it came to a Goofy movie, was when he was a young boy, him and his mommy, they went to go see the 1967's The Jungle Book, and that's what made Kevin want to grow up to be an animator and where he would go. And of course, he would attend Cal Arts, and when he would graduate, find his way into Disney. And at a certain point, he considered on wanting to be a director. He even approached and asked, but unfortunately, it was more than likely not going to happen at that time because, according to Kevin, Disney had already had their next, 6 films lined up, and who will direct those 6 films. Each director's But that wasn't until a Goofy movie happened, and he was attached and chosen to helm this one Disney animated picture. And, and because, the fact that it was not going to be in line with the films of the Disney Renaissance, and the fact that how the budget on a Goofy movie and where it was being done specifically, up until when they had to go to different studios, like most notably France and so on. But thankfully, because with Jeffrey Katzenberg, let's talk about Jeffrey Katzenberg, because and knowing the history of Katzenberg being a part of the Disney family and how he can be intimidating sometimes, but at the same time, him being a nice guy and really caring about animation, but still being intimidated from the animators, they're intimidated by him, And the fact that, he did greenlit a Goofy movie, and not to mention that there was an experience that Katzenberg had that would be a big influence for a Goofy movie, where he and his daughter had a road trip and they weren't getting along, and that being incorporated into a Goofy movie. And, not only did Katzenberg have an experience like that, but Kevin did as well, and so did Christopher, as I mentioned earlier. And the fact that Kevin, he sadly did not see his father for a long time because, unfortunately, his father left. And it wasn't until, say, around the late 90s when he would reconnect with his father. So, And that is brought up at the end of the movie, right before the credits roll, but until I get there and go into it some more. But anyways, because what Kevin experienced, and that being something else, and his connection for directing a Goofy movie. And also, let's talk about the segues/segments, where, we have some hand-drawn animation, not fully completed, but that's the purpose, where, we have cartoonish versions of, say, Katzenberg and the crew of a Goofy movie. Especially Katzenberg being betrayed as a short person, of course. Because, yeah, I mean, Katzenberg being depicted as being a, intimidating, short guy. If you get the joke, So, yeah, that's great. And whenever, Katzenberg would be there on the meetings and getting to see, the footage and, rolling some of the film, to see what he thinks, just, yeah. Well, I mean, overall, because they were doing pretty good so far when they were soon underway, and with the budget they had, and well, because Katzenberg at that time, wanting to do some animated films, apart from the big budgeted animated films, and of course those being a part of the Disney Renaissance, wanting to do some animated films that were cheap, and Goofy Movie being one of them. And when it came down to the cast, well, because, yeah, we had our cast of characters, from Bill Farmer, Jason Marsden, Wallace Shawn, Pauly Shore, Jim Cummings, Rob Paulsen, Jenna Von Oy, Jamie Thomason, and, Frank Welker, Kelly Martin, and, again, only through, the archive footage is, when we see them. And even, some interviews with them. It's a shame that they weren't able to, I guess that Eric and Christopher, were they not able to bring in, say, Jim Cummings, Rob Paulsen, Jenna Von Oy? I don't know, because, I'm guessing probably with the budget they had doing this documentary, and they can only, get, say, most notably Bill Farmer and Jason Marsden. That's my guess, but, overall it would have been nice if they did bring them in. They brought the others in for the documentary. Jim Cummings, Rob Paulsen, Jenna Von Oy, maybe even Pauly Shore, but, yeah. But that's okay. It still turned out pretty good if we didn't actually have them there talking about a Goofy movie and their experience, but yeah. But only, through the use of archive footage. And also, can't forget to mention this because, yeah, this was really cool that one of the other things that starts off this documentary, and Christopher, he pulled this up on his phone playing this, I didn't know anything about this. And nor did I own a VHS copy of a Goofy Movie, okay? Just want to make that clear, where, I'm sure for some of you, you probably were just like, oh, nice, yeah, where Christopher played on his phone a music video, to the Goofy Movie VHS before the movie itself starts. There's a music video that plays, well, and obviously this is also after, say the sneak peeks and such that play, where, Dr. Looney's Remedy, yes, because Christopher played that on his phone, and, for the fun of it, and, nostalgic purposes, and, of course, for those that had the VHS tape copy of Goofy Movie. So, yeah. Anyways, okay, and to speed things up some, because, like I said, because the voice cast they would get, and also when they would talk about Bigfoot some, and, seeing recordings of Frank Welker recording as Bigfoot, Frank Welker, just a legendary voice actor he is, and he's so, pardon my French, but it's true, he's so damn good at doing animal voices, and what he brought to Bigfoot, and when looking at them designing Bigfoot in the sketches, and with the teeth kind of separated, and one of the animators, the workers of a Goofy Movie kind of having that same thing, and, oh yes, also, have to bring this up too, it's one of the biggies of this documentary, when at one point, Katzenberg was not connecting with Goofy's voice. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. Because apparently, it's baffling, is it not? When knowing about this. And what was Katzenberg thinking? Because when listening to the recordings of Bill Farmer doing the Goofy voice, Gore, this is how Goofy is supposed to sound. He was not connecting to it. It wasn't clicking to him. And apparently, Katzenberg suggested that Goofy should speak normally and such. And even, what if Steve Martin voiced Goofy? You want Steve Martin doing the Goofy voice? No. Using his regular voice. And I literally said this out loud when watching the documentary. What was Katzenberg thinking? Yeah, it's true. What was he thinking? why, out of nowhere, why was it not clicking to him? It wasn't, because that's how Goofy is supposed to sound, with that voice. And even, I think, it was Kevin who brought this up where, it's like, what if, say, Mickey Mouse was voiced with a regular voice from, Cary Grant? Yeah, exactly. That would not be cool. And that would definitely not be cool to the audience. Yeah. Had that happened, like Goofy with a regular voice, and if it was Steve Martin, probably the audience would have been pissed. Yeah, probably. I feel as though that, what Katzenberg suggested, the whole thing of Goofy, like, him considering it at one point on Goofy speaking with a regular voice, I feel like that's one of those things, like, biggies from Katzenberg where he almost screwed up. Like, the other ones I can think of most notably is, like, say, the whole thing of him wanting to originally cut out part of your world in The Little Mermaid, or, say, the whole Toy Story Black Friday moment. Yeah, so I think those are some of the biggies on Katzenberg's part and what he did when he was part of Disney. Those infamous moments to come from Katzenberg. But no hard feelings on Katzenberg, okay? Just, yeah. And then, what Kevin and the others did when, they had to listen to Katzenberg because he's the boss, they asked Katzenberg to let them, like, say, have Bill do the Goofy character with his regular voice, and that's what Bill did. They did recordings of Bill with doing his regular voice for Goofy, and according to Bill, he had a meltdown, and he couldn't get a good night's sleep for quite a while, and just constantly thinking, like, if his regular voice will be used for Goofy, and just, I don't blame Bill, and of course Bill, knowing the character Goofy so much, just, And also, like, as it was brought up in the documentary, and I'm aware that, if anybody recalls that a lot of people did not agree on what Bill said at a certain point, where Bill said that Goofy's not a dog. Well, I think the documentary puts it at best where, and from Bill, that, Goofy not just being a dog, but like something about a human, like, I forget how he put it specifically, but I mean, I think I get where Bill's going, but, I guess that's just my opinion, but maybe some of you would probably understand and think so too, I mean, besides, like, Pluto, who acts like a full-time dog and is on a collar wearing a leash sometimes, and how the documentary puts at it. So, overall, when it came to Katzenberg on, listening to the voice of Goofy with a regular voice and such, Katzenberg did feel that, this was a bad idea. And thus, Goofy, rightfully so, speaking like, how he is supposed to, gorge. Yes. So, by the way, and more on the the segments of the hand-drawn animation and how Bill Farmer, most notably, not just Katzenberg, but also Bill Farmer, how he's depicted. Like, it's great. A bit of Goofy to him. That's great. And also, more mentionings on, like, when the voice cast, they were recording their lines. Like, Jason Marsden brings this up where, the moment where Max, Goof, and Roxanne, they accidentally kiss. Well, because the fact that Kelly Martin actually had to be right beside Jason by the mic, and they actually had to, like, go for a kiss accidentally, and it was hilarious, and what Jason explains. It was great. And also, when it came to, and let's talk about, say, the songs, the music, from, say, Eye to Eye, and a few others, And, when they brought in some great talents and whom would get to voice and be the singing voice altogether of Powerline, And the fact that, Powerline being inspired and being a mix of, like, say, Prince and Michael Jackson, and even they brought in one of Prince's backup singers, what's-her-face, and seeing the behind-the-scenes of them recording the lyrics, and even seeing the that thing that Disney has done, what's the word? The animation reference, the reference footage, yeah. Reference footage of those who are dancing as, say, Powerline, Goofy, and Max, and the certain dance moves they're doing, and how they talk about it, and just, and according to them, just being so amazing. And yeah, it is. Just those like specific dance moves that each Powerline, and most notably Goofy and Max, were doing, that, and the reference animation and when it's incorporated into the final film, just amazing. Just, yeah. And also, yeah, because, what else? Because, and as I mentioned earlier, because when they had to go to different studios around the world, like most notably France, and, some of the animators in France who are French and only speak French, and, they have to be told, and because of, and what Kevin's describing to them on what needs to be specifically done, in a Goofy movie, even when at a certain point, they were working up top, like in fancy animation rooms and such, but they had to be moved downstairs because they were being refurbished and such, remodeled, and yeah. And even when, things were kind of not looking good on the production, but thankfully, they were given more time. They were relieved, when a Goofy movie had to be delayed, and yeah, the more time they got to, do it correctly and how they needed it to be done, just, yeah. Also, the whole thing on Hi Dad Soup, yes, of course, yeah. What's talked about of Hi Dad Soup? And seeing the behind the scenes and what was put into the whole Hi Dad Soup, from the storyboards, and what Kevin and each of the animators are talking about of the whole Hi Dad Soup thing. Oh, it's amazing. What more do I have to say? Just, all I can really say is that was, yeah, because the whole Hi Dad Soup thing in a Goofy movie itself, and when it's talked about in the documentary, not just a goof, extraordinary, really is. Okay, and to still speed things up some, because, yeah, like I said, when a Goofy movie was delayed, and, because they had to be moved downstairs, and so on, just, yeah. And eventually when, they were still making good progress near the end, and then just, yeah, like I said earlier, when, say, The Lion King overshadowed a Goofy movie, it just, 1 year before it came out, and, the same thing happened with Pocahontas. Just, yeah, the popularity of The Lion King having come up just, 1 year ago, and then the next upcoming years in the 90s, yeah, the power and popularity of Lion King. Even when, say, Toy Story came in as well. Just, yeah. And, even, also, there were plans at first for a Goofy movie to have merchandise that never went underway. Seeing some prototype pictures, well, yeah, because of, these, plushies and, bunch of other stuff that, would have been out on store shelves, but again, that never came to be, sadly. And the fact that they didn't have a big time premiere, in movie theaters, and, they would have originally made their way, and the movie would have been premiered, say, in Los Angeles, California, but that didn't happen. But when, for a Goofy movie's premiere happening at Walt Disney World, and yeah, obviously this would be at Downtown Disney, presumably. Yeah, even say, because with what Kevin and the others said, being pushed away and not getting any, early reviews from the critics or anything like that, but yeah. But at the same time, a Goofy movie's premiere and going on a tour promoting a Goofy movie was fun, and for the cast and crew, even what Bill Farmer most notably and Jason Marsden, what they had to say about when a Goofy movie premiered, and some of the interviews that they got to be a part of, most notably Bill, and at that time that was very rare to happen, and the fact that Bill got to be on camera being interviewed, and some of the early reception and reviews. But yeah, when say the reviews came in, and with the box office, yeah, it was a critical disaster and such, because yeah, sadly, it was kind of a stinker. And even, like, say, when Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel were brought up, like, they didn't really have that much positive things to say. I'm pretty sure, yeah, not at all. And I'm gonna have to, I think I have watched their review of a Goofy movie, but I'm gonna have to go back and look. But just, yeah, but what Kevin Lima, most notably, what he was describing on what, say, Ebert and Siskel, what they had to say, their review on a Goofy movie, yeah, that was a definite sign that, yeah, and from Kevin, not good. Just, and that's unfortunate. But even though, yeah, because it didn't do that great on the big screen, when it made its way to home media, home video, and so on, even making its way to, say, like, on the Disney Channel, etc., but most notably, VHS. Yeah, it did better. And, well, you know, because Kevin at that time felt that a Goofy movie was probably going to be something that would be quickly forgotten, and it would become very underrated. But little did Kevin and everybody else, obviously, that goes for everybody who was involved in a Goofy movie, little did they know at that time what would happen next in the next 10 to 20 years for a Goofy movie. Yes, because, yeah, to go ahead and get up to this part where, yes, around, like, say, the, most notably the 2010s, and especially, like, when, in 2015, D23 having a panel for a Goofy movie's 20th anniversary, and apparently, at that time, like, and when it was happening, it wasn't listed as being one of the top recommended panels to attend to, but boy, the Goofy movie 20th anniversary panel being packed and a lot of people being there, everybody was going wild and they were cheering, and according to Jason, and yeah, he has a point, it's like, when they were there at the panel, they felt like it was like they were the Beatles, you know? And it was like an amazing, yeah, no doubt that this was an amazing experience for them. How much love and appreciation up to that point that a Goofy movie had gotten, and seeing some of the archive footage of what was taken at the Goofy movie 20th anniversary panel at D23, and the fact that afterwards, that panel would become one of the most, you know, top best panels that happened at that D23, and even what Bill had to say, and a huge montage of everybody on social media, and most notably YouTube, talking about their love, appreciation, memories on a Goofy movie. And there are a few on YouTube that, yeah, I do recognize, and what they've had to say about a Goofy movie. Even the band Haim, am I saying their name right? Yeah, because, yeah, one of them especially, like, one of them, like, having some praise for a Goofy movie. Just, yeah. And those on TikTok, and even at the Disney parks, when celebrating a Goofy movie, and when seeing the meet and greet versions of Goofy and Max, and what they're doing that has to do with a Goofy movie. Just, yeah, amazing. And when Kevin and the others learning about this and what they have to say on how much love and appreciation up to this point that a Goofy movie has gotten, and also seeing people cosplaying as either, say, Max Goof or most notably Roxanne, Powerline, just, it's amazing. Really, it is. And also, yeah, let's talk about what Christopher brings up, because, yeah, because Christopher, again, not only being one of the writers and directors alongside with Eric, but him being the narrator. And he shares a story on his connection with a Goofy movie, where at a young age, he would watch Fathers with his daddy. And yeah, even watching movies that his daddy introduced him to, like most notably 101 Dalmatians. At a certain point, at a young age, sadly, his parents split for 2 years. And he didn't understand why, and, you know, was feeling sad. But that was until his mommy gave him and got him a VHS copy of a Goofy movie. And ever since, when watching a Goofy movie, that would become a comfort for him, and really, like, understanding and, like, you know, his connections with his own father and so on. Just, yeah. And eventually, he would see his father again, and, yeah, things would be patched up between his parents, and as is shown, yeah. And because, yeah, what a Goofy movie leaves off, and with, the whole thing on a father wanting to be in his son's life, and even up to when, his son being in his teen years, and just so hard-hitting and heart-wrenching, just emotional, and just a lot of other things that are brought up towards the end of a Goofy movie, and just like the mentioning of the impact on a bunch of other great Disney films, and a Goofy movie being one of them. And, and as they say, people deciding, and they have decided / chosen, that a Goofy movie is a Disney animated cult classic. And, to them, kind of being in there with the Disney Renaissance, just, overall, the fans, those that love a Goofy movie, they choose a Goofy movie being a cult classic. Also, I can't forget to mention this because, how did I forget this? Another mention of Jeffrey Katzenberg, because like I said, when things were not looking too good for a Goofy movie, and even when, it was delayed 1 year, well, also, because Katzenberg, he was the one that was, giving a Goofy movie a 100% support and such. He greenlit a Goofy movie, and when at a certain point, he resigned. The documentary says he got fired, but he didn't get fired. He just resigned, because if you know this, and it's even established in Waking Sleeping Beauty, after Frank Wells died, Katzenberg wanted to get Frank Wells' position. And Michael Eisner, who at that point had enough couldn't handle it anymore with Katzenberg's attitude, he wouldn't give Katzenberg the specific job that Katzenberg wanted. And at that point, Katzenberg then realized that there was no future for him at Disney anymore. And not long after The Lion King's premiere, he resigned. And, even when, leaving the Goofy movie team under limo, and just, according to one of them, it was chaotic. The fact that they lost Jeffrey Katzenberg, who supported them making a Goofy movie. He greenlit a Goofy movie. But despite Katzenberg resigning and leaving Disney, a Goofy movie would still turn out pretty good. Even they originally were wanting to film this in a different way with a camera or something. If you know what it is, and seeing the documentary, But overall, the way that a Goofy movie turned out, and even though it wasn't really received that well at first in theaters, but when it came out on VHS, and in the later years, up to 10 to 20 years, look where a Goofy movie would be at. Amazing. Just amazing. What more do I have to say? The documentary on a Goofy movie, and to wrap things up, yes, not just a goof, it's an excellent, well-put documentary all about the history / making of a Goofy movie. Everything from beginning to end. The storytelling in the documentary, whom appears in the documentary, the stories that are shared, never before seen footage and clips of, the making of a Goofy movie, from Kevin Lima, what he was recording, and, how things were not looking good for a Goofy movie at first, but eventually it was finished, but at first not received, but in the later years, and some funny stuff that's brought up at times, emotional, heart-hitting moments, of course, and people's connection with a Goofy movie, and that, of course, goes with, Eric and Christopher. And also, the fact that Eric, one more thing to mention, because, Eric, it's obvious that, he does view his uncle as another, father figure. And how Eric puts at it. It's very sweet. And also, the fact that Kevin himself, as I mentioned earlier, he would reunite with his father after Tarzan's release. And also, there's an end credit scene after, when the credits are finished, where Kevin's asked the question if he ever considered doing a sequel to a Goofy movie. Obviously, this has nothing to do with an extremely Goofy movie. No, because of course he was not really involved with that. Just a different sequel, I guess you can say, to a Goofy movie. And his response, no. However, he did mention, and right before the documentary ends, that he had thought, maybe possibly, doing a documentary on Powerline. Boy, imagine that. But Yeah, just a funny and great way to end off this documentary. Just overall, not just a goof. Everything about it, it's excellent. Highly recommend this, and for anybody who loves and appreciates a Goofy movie, yeah. And I'm giving Not Just a Goof, well, if it's not obvious, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Not Just a Goof. And what about you guys? What did you think of Not Just a Goof itself? Were any of you like me, just had no idea that this documentary was in the works and it was on its way, but until, like, say, we saw the trailer, and when we finally did see it on Disney Plus, just, yeah, what were your first thoughts on it? And any of you, by any chance, that may have seen it when going on a Disney cruise, or at the Walt Disney Family Museum, any of you possibly, just, yeah, feel free to share. What are some of your favorite moments from the documentary? Stuff that you didn't know and you found fascinating. Did you get good laughs and get teary-eyed? And what is your fondest memories of a Goofy movie? What connects you? What does this movie, what are your connections with a Goofy movie itself? And with the connections and memories that are shared in the documentary? Just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of the documentary, all about the making and the history of a Goofy movie, not just a Goof itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Not Just a Goof, the documentary on the history / the making of a Goofy movie. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. Take care, and peace out. Gorge.